Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This is the podcast uh, with me, Jeremy, and Gavin. Say hello, guys.
Hello,
Hello,
this is me, Gavin.
this is me,
What?
Jeremy.
What? That's so weird.
Wait,
um,
what?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
But today we're going to be discussing what happened to in the book Into the Wild by crap. I forgot who it was by.
On Krakauer.
By
John Krakauer.
Sean Krakauer. Thanks, guys. After we have just finished reading the book and its epilogue, uh, like a week ago. So now it's time to discuss what happened for our final. So, who wants to start off the discussion?
I can start off. So
All right.
I'm just gonna start off just by asking the very obvious question.
Mm-hmm.
Um, why did he go into the wild in the first place? Like,
Yeah. Why?
I'm pretty sure it's an obvious answer, but I'm just there's still a couple of things where I'm not really sure as to why, his intentions. I don't know. Did he just really like camping or something?
Yeah. I feel like. I feel like the reason why he did go out in the wild was because, like his mom said in the or was it the epilogue or was it chapter 18, where she said he really liked that sort of forestry and like that sort of scenery.
Oh yeah,
But
I think it was
we we've
chapter 8.
seen we've seen through his 2 years of him just going around the country that he doesn't like having those attachments that he did. You know,
Yeah, he doesn't
he
like staying in one place.
yeah. And I feel like near the end of his life, I feel like he realized that that might have been a bad idea.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's why he wanted to leave is because he missed that connection. Um,
hmm
you know, it, it's it's just kind of sad how he realized it before it was too late. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
No, yeah, I agree.
like a question that I want to ask. Do you know the writing portion of our final, and how we're asked if humans are sorry, are humans inherently good or just
hmm
born good? I
Yeah.
what I'm saying
Well,
in mind. Go ahead.
so the thing about that is that we can't say they're born good because it all
Mm-hmm.
depends really on who you're around and who
Yeah,
taught you
Yeah,
your
that's true.
ways.
And
yeah.
yeah.
See, I think humans are born selfish. We are very selfish creatures. We are very selfish animals. Because if we aren't nurtured to be good and considerate towards other people,
hmm
then we will be wanting like the stuff that we want, and we'll
Yeah,
continuously
yeah,
just
yeah.
go after that without actually having any cause.
hmm
Because if you're starving to death, you know, uh,
You're gonna do everything you physically can to get food, whether that means
or harming
stealing or
another person, yeah,
yeah.
to
Yeah.
get it, and it's just by nature. I feel like all
hmm
animals, all humans are selfish, but because
Yeah,
we are a, I guess, higher life form than like a boar
like a
in the
cheetah.
wild, yeah,
Yeah.
we can comprehend
hmm
how like
Like that's actually not a good thing.
yeah, because
Yeah.
we understand cooperation, we understand tools, we
hmm
understand how to use them, while
Yeah.
a bird might not understand how to use a chainsaw. You know,
hmm
that's
No, yeah, yeah.
yeah, or they don't understand the concept of like territory or something like that. Like
hmm
other lions, they'll mark out their territory. And
Yeah, yeah.
I
I
think
Or
I think I can
tigers
kind of
too.
see
Yeah.
both
You see that?
sides because yes, I do agree that we are just naturally born and through history, even in cave drawings, we can see that humans were very just naturally selfish, right? Like you were saying, if we need to eat, we're gonna eat.
Yeah.
But I
We're
also
gonna.
think that part of it is who we're raised by. I guess, if that makes
Yeah,
sense. 'Cause, like,
nurture is a nurture versus nature sort of topic.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good
Yeah,
way to
and
put it.
also what kind of like century or place we're born in.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mhm.
also affects it a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
because we live in like the freest country that has ever been. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
that still has like a government that actually kind of helps. You know, despite your political,
Yeah.
despite your political beliefs or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
This is how we
Oh my gosh! You hear it, his mic?
Yeah, Jeremy, are you okay?
But
It sounds a bit extra crispy. Here, can you turn off your fan in the background? I think that's what's
oh,
causing
my
it.
fan, it's my fan's not that loud though.
Yeah, but like I'm pretty sure Discord like sound suppression is doing something
Yeah.
weird.
But yeah, going along with that, like, I think part of the reason why he wanted to go into the wild was to, like, I guess, like, for lack of a better term, have a break from humanity. Like, and I can definitely see that. I've definitely had moments where I'm like, guys, I'm just gonna stay in my room for like 2 weeks. Nobody talk to me. Like, I can definitely see if that was his true intention. Like, and maybe you're right. Maybe he did just want to like spend more time out in the wild because,
You
like,
know, I'm gonna cut you off here real quick because
no, you're good. You're good.
I believe the opposite of you actually. I
Mm.
think the reason why like deep down within him, I think the reason why Chris went out into the wild and went into like the quote unquote Alaskan bush. You know, we've discussed this before. You know, everybody in our class has seen that. There's 6 miles away. There were some cabins.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
I,
Mhm.
he was by a national forest.
Yeah.
It's I feel like the reason why he went out in the wild was because he wanted to detach himself from those like feelings that he was getting because I think when he grew up he felt as
He
if
was very like wealthy.
the only way for him to be happy was for him to be out in the wild, and we saw that with him because they went out and they hiked, they climbed,
Mm-hmm.
you know, they survived out in the wild for a bit, and you know, they feel like that's his times where he was genuinely happy because at
Yeah.
home, you know, he couldn't like put down his resentment towards his father and like his second wife, you know.
Yeah,
Then how
yeah.
he like was cheating on his first wife. He couldn't put down that resentment, and I feel like after that, he kind of felt as if he couldn't have those bonds or anymore, or else he'd like break, and he wouldn't be
Yeah.
able to.
He
He
needed
didn't
like an
want to.
escape, like a
Yeah,
back door.
yeah, and that we see that with what was the old dude's name?
It was like did it start with an R? I think it started with an R, right?
Yeah, no, it's sorry, teacher. I don't have that good of a memory, but
Oh.
yeah, we saw it with him when he asked him, "Will will you let me would like adopt you?" Basically, was that it, or
Yeah.
was like take my last name? I don't remember,
I
but
can't remember.
he he asked him something like similar to that, and he's like
Hmm.
he was very put off by it, but he still
Yeah.
cared about the dude. He told him
Hmm.
to go live out and be like,
Like do his own thing.
yeah,
Hmm.
after living such a sedentary lifestyle.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, but like I feel like when Chris was like a kid, he just kind of comes from that, and that's why he didn't.
Hmm.
That's why he wanted to go out in the wild, and I think
Yeah.
like that. I think that's his main focus. He might have side ones. He might have like differing like views and stuff, but we definitely did see when he wanted to get out and go back home.
Yeah. He definitely tried like really
He
hard.
definitely tried. If he
Mhm.
just walked a different direction.
Yeah. Yeah, quite literally.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
we saw how like the cabins were already destroyed, so that wouldn't have even saved him.
Would have even helped, yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the sad thing. But maybe he
Yeah.
could have eaten. The
Like something that was there, you know.
yeah, because there
Yeah,
might have
maybe
been cans.
some
You never
stuff
know.
like that.
Yeah, exactly. I also want to point out that like it isn't really discussed a whole lot, but at the very beginning of the book, it says that he grew up like somewhat wealthy, or did he grow up like really like wealthy? I can't really remember, but
Well,
Yeah, he grew up with a really wealthy family.
yeah, like
because
his
Mhm.
dad had a good
was
job.
also,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I just wanted to like point that out because it's not mentioned a whole lot. I think it's only mentioned like once actually at the very beginning of the book. But
Yeah.
I like in my opinion, I could definitely see if like he wanted to escape from like it kind of mentions at the beginning of the book where it says that he feels like he is like I don't know what the word is, like having everything like handed to him. It doesn't say that specifically in the book, but it like kind of mentions something along those lines,
Like
and
he
I
was
could
good at
definitely
everything he
see.
tried. Is that what you're?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and he just wanted like a new, like a different experience, I guess. Um, like I could definitely see if that was like one of the main contributing factors, even if it wasn't a main contributing factor. But like, yeah, because I guess he was like kind of getting bored of having everything handed to him, if that makes sense. Like,
Mhm.
Yeah.
because like his parents tried to buy him like a brand new car, and he was like, "No, I don't like want that," like and
Yeah.
that was like
Yeah.
right before he went. So
Mhm.
And instead of getting that new car, he just goes and buys a yellow Datsun of all cars.
yeah, literally.
um.
Yeah, which kind of goes to show that like he doesn't need or want money, as we saw like with him literally burning his money, which is illegal. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, I can't believe it. He increased the value of the dollar, guys.
yeah,
Sure.
single-handedly.
Single-handedly putting his fist up to the government. um,
Yeah.
you know, I I feel like throughout his whole journey, and I kind of have said this in class, and you guys have probably heard me. I don't feel like I feel definitely sympathetic
Yeah, yeah,
towards his family, but I don't really feel sympathy towards Chris himself because I feel like he kind of manipulated himself into thinking certain things and to believe,
yeah, exactly.
and he couldn't
Yeah.
like let things go like with his dad, and like of
Mhm.
course he just kind of held it within him, and he was able to
Mhm.
do that because I feel like he wanted to have something that he didn't like about his dad, you
Yeah.
know, and
No, yeah, that makes sense.
his dad was very traditional too, so it
Mhm.
was
Yeah.
he was kind of traditional with raising Chris, and
Yeah, yeah.
that kind of pushed him away because usually some people like in a lot of generations are kind of the opposite, like they push back to what their parents are doing in their younger age, you know.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
I feel like what Chris was doing was just trying to not to run away, but trying
Mhm.
to.
Just taking it like a short break, like a little pause.
I don't think
Yeah.
like I feel like if he truly was able to survive out in the wild, he would stay there.
Oh no, yeah, I 100% agree.
Like I don't
Well,
think
the
it's like a
thing,
short
yeah.
break. I think what happened was I have to get out of here because
Like he realized like I am not
Yeah.
really
Like
prepared for this.
yeah.
he didn't really even make a plan before he just went. He just
Yeah, he just
He
kind of
pointlessly
left.
never
up and
told his parents where he was at.
Mhm.
oh,
Never.
Yeah, like
And
not once.
I mean, I feel bad for his parents because think about it. This
I do
kid
too.
that you raised, you sent to college,
yeah.
It's like all of a sudden missing. Like literally
missing.
all of a sudden.
He tells them, "I'm gonna
Yeah.
go on this trip. See ya," and
Yeah.
never ever like
Yeah.
talks to them
And then the
again.
next time they hear from him, he's in the news like that he's
Yeah,
dead. Like
yeah, like 2 years
That would,
later.
that
yeah.
would probably mess some people up.
Oh no, yeah, I agree.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
I
And like
go ahead.
going along with that like he wasn't prepared at all. All he really had was like a little backpack and like a rifle like to begin with. That's like all he really had. And but like
And
I think Chris
what?
is the kind of person that like managed to make it work. Like he spent 2 years on that backpack,
Yeah,
right? And not like the contents in the backpack, but like just
Yeah.
with that backpack, like um. So I guess in a way he kind of was prepared, but not like. I think you're right. I think if he wanted to stay in the wild, he definitely would have. But once he reached a certain threshold that I think like when he realized like, whoa, I need to get out of here. Like I'm not really prepared for this, like oh, what's the word? Like you know what I'm saying?
yeah, I get what you're saying. I think we all do.
Mhm.
Um, I think Chris knew he wasn't prepared like a bit because he brought out 22 out into the
Yeah.
Alaskan wild. Like a
that's not-
22.
Yeah.
Eh,
It's like a BB gun up against bears.
yeah.
Yeah.
He shot at a
Especially-
bear and missed, and he's like, "Oh, shucks, I was
Yeah.
gonna get that bear," but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it, I I had it in my mind. I completely forgot what I was about to say. What were you just talking about, like, Gavin? Because it was on that.
That he wasn't like really prepared. Like in a way he was prepared, but he wasn't prepared because if he wanted to stay there, he definitely would have.
I remember what I was gonna say. I feel like mentally, he wasn't prepared because, as
Yeah.
you can see, we saw throughout this
Yeah.
entire story how his mind changed. Like,
Yeah.
not a lot, but like it kind of was getting melded by his
Like enough to be
circumstances.
noticed. Yeah.
And I think he loved just walking around for 2 years, and just
Mhm.
experiencing America.
Yeah.
But I think whenever he settled down, outside of civilization in the quote unquote Alaskan bush,
Mhm.
it's, I feel like whenever his mental deteriorated, like,
Yeah.
like not even before starvation.
Oh no, yeah,
I think when he was out there and he was reading these books talking about like relations and stuff like that, he was like, that's true,
Yeah.
That's
But
true.
I think it also like has something to do like again with psychological because there have been studies of like if you go like a certain time period with like zero contact with other people, you do start to lose some of that like some of your
Humanity.
oh my gosh. Yeah, yeah. You start to like kind of go crazy a little bit for lack of a better term.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that was like part of the reason why he didn't leave right away. Like from what I understood in the book is it wasn't like a get up and go like oh crap I need to get out of here. It was more of like a gradual like okay like I'll leave in like a couple days or like he didn't really anticipate the
High water
like
level.
yeah yeah
Yeah.
No, he really didn't anticipate any of it. Not even really the weather.
no yeah
Mm-hmm. I feel like this journey he kind of went on was him realizing that he couldn't, like, you couldn't just be like alone because human
Mhm.
contact is
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
'cause
it's
we
so
are
like
not
crucial.
only are we selfish like creatures, bringing it back to the original top or the writing topic,
Mhm.
but I feel like we're also very social.
no
And
yeah I
that's what
agree.
makes us good.
We pretty much
Mhm.
need to have
So
a
it makes us
social
human.
life.
Exactly. Like, Jeremy, you were about to say something. I'll let you go.
Well, I already said it. We need to have a social part in our life in order to actually be able
Mhm.
to handle everything in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah no I 100% agree.
Well,
Like
we're
just like a
talking.
simple
Go ahead.
go ahead.
Okay. I feel like when we're talking about, are humans good, you have, like, the selfishness, which is a very, like, instinctual, like,
Mhm.
trait
Mhm.
that happens. And then we also
Yeah.
have social.
Yeah.
Social is so, like, important in, like, some ways, It's,
Yeah
like, I think that's what makes us good is wanting to socialize with others.
mhm
And
yeah I agree. That's what
I
like
think that's
sorry, go ahead.
really
Sorry.
whenever we get into the, no, you're fine, Gavin. But I feel like that whenever we're getting down to like just the dirt and like the rock and stone, I feel like that's what is the real question is our instinctual, like, feelings of social and selfishness,
Mhm.
because I
Yeah.
think
No.
we because our minds have progressed so, like, far, we need both.
Yeah.
It's like selfishness on itself could be good. It
Mhm.
might keep you alive. You're like, oh, this chicken, he had its own life. But no, I
Mhm.
need to eat. I'm gonna eat him, even though it had its own mind. Whether
Yeah.
you think that's like true or not. But I,
Yeah.
I think
Mhm.
I think that's really, like, that's another, like, good topic. I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we should go. I think I'm gonna go back to the topic of being prepared
Mm-hmm.
and like. So I don't know if a lot of you know this, but like I go on a backpacking trip every year, and what McCandless had was pretty much nothing compared to what you even need for 4 days.
Really. And he went for 2 years.
Yeah.
Mm,
Well, he went out into Alaska like for 100 days, wasn't it?
Oh, that's true. Yeah, he technically like wasn't alone all those 2 years. He did have like small jobs along the way, but yeah, I see what you're saying, Jeremy. Like he was not prepared in the slightest, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
no. I mean, like, what was it that he had?
He had like a
Another
big bag of
bag of
rice.
rice.
Yeah.
Even he didn't even take it really.
Yeah, he really didn't.
Still full.
Mhm. He had his 22 and then he had like a couple like from what it sounded like he had a couple pots and pans, but I'm not really sure. I could be wrong.
Yeah. I something that I feel like is kind of understated is, and his mom said this, I think, in the epilogue, where she said he must have been incredibly brave to not do himself in.
Yeah,
I do think that when he was starving, he still had incredible will not to be like,
like panic almost.
I'm going to, die. Might as well not deal with the pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Mhm.
it's, this is a serious topic.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's like if you have uh, Chris, he's trying not to like die essentially. He
No, yeah,
every single day that he was starving, he did something to try to live,
Hmm.
And that's
Yeah.
something I can, totally get down with is just trying to live as long as possible.
Mhm. Like fighting to the last second. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
It just
kind of like the show Alone.
Yeah. Yeah. Quite literally. Yeah.
well, he kind of did himself over with the what root was he eating again? That like
It was like some like oh,
Um,
it was like a like this weird like potato root, wasn't it? Or was
yeah.
it something different?
no. It was potato seeds that he was eating.
Mm,
Yeah,
that's
and
right.
he didn't have the necessary fat to like clear it out of his system,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
it it just it just sucks, man, how
Yeah.
he died like that, and
Hmm.
I definitely can see like people grieving, over this kid that they met for like a few months, you know,
Yeah.
because
And
yeah, go ahead.
like going along with that topic, like sorry, I'm gonna kind of stray off the path a little bit, but like as you said, they were only in contact with Chris at most like maybe a month, right? And like he was the kind of person that just he only needed that amount of time to make like kind of a pretty big impact on all their lives. Like the one guy that he met, I forget his name, sorry teacher, but like he actually after he found out Chris died, he actually adopted or somewhat adopted Chris's ways and like sold his house and like bought a trailer and moved out into the woods. Like
Mm-hmm.
this was a kid who like this was no ordinary kid. Like this was a kid who like he wasn't an idiot, right? He knew what he was doing. I don't think he anticipated what he was doing, but he definitely knew what he was doing. Like he didn't have any like it said in the book that some people speculated that he might have had like a mental illness. I personally don't think that was the case. I think he genuinely knew what he was doing and he just didn't anticipate like what was like gonna happen.
Yeah. Um. On that, I think he was confident in his own abilities to not
Hmm.
like to stay alive, and I think he was confident in like being able to stay out there for 100 days. Because how
Hmm.
long was he in Mexico for? you know,
Oh, dude, like
Um,
yeah.
and it just kind of sucks that he lost that revolver too, man. I mean,
Yeah, that sucks so bad.
that would.
at
Yeah.
customs, um, but you know, my main attachment to the book, I guess, because you have to like in order to actually be able to talk about it. I feel like you kind of need to have some sort of like
Mm-hmm.
gripping aspect of the story that you liked, in any book.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
with Chris, I didn't like Chris. I don't think I would have liked Chris because I feel like, you said he was rich and he just wanted to
Yeah.
go experience life,
Like the
like
world.
it
Yeah.
is on like the road.
Mm-hmm.
And he like never really experienced like I guess like how would you say this like hardship like
Mm-hmm.
towards like because my mom we've been a poor family for a while, but she just got this good job and everything, but
Oh, cool.
it's it's like it takes a toll, because like
It does. It
she was
definitely
about
does.
to get food stamps, which is like she's against food stamps, and she was thinking about getting food stamps because we were
Mm-hmm.
so poor, and that really hurt her mentally and like stressed
Yeah.
her out that we weren't bringing in enough money for like food, and that's the stress that I'm trying to like talk
Mm-hmm.
to. He didn't never really had that because his dad just had to work.
Yeah.
His parents
Get
sent
everything
him to
handed to him.
college. My brothers and sisters had to pay for their college.
Mm-hmm.
They might have
Yeah.
gotten tuitions, but they still had to pay a bit of it. You
No.
know,
Yeah. Exactly. Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
he didn't have to pay for any of it. And he
Mm-hmm.
went to college for what is it? Issues in Africa, right? Or am I wrong?
No, it
Something
was
like that.
And he just wanted to experience that. That's what I kind of got from him.
Mm-hmm.
But we can see how deep his character was because of how many people's lives he's affected.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't. No. Definitely.
And with Chris, I feel like the book why I'm attached to it is this whole dynamic where I don't like the character, but I like the people that he's changing, and how he's like talking
Mm-hmm.
to him because he was a very extreme, like he had a very extreme ideology, and he
Mm-hmm.
kind of just pursued it, which is
Yeah.
commendable, but it's just kind of hard to do that. So
Mm-hmm.
I like the aspect of the people who met him halfway, who said, you
Yeah.
know what, that's a fair point. I'm gonna go do this, but not to the extent that you're doing. And
Mm-hmm.
the extent that he was doing it was destroying himself and his relationships and his family. And
Yeah.
that's where I have an issue with Chris. Is
Mm-hmm.
those like three key issues, and he
yeah.
just didn't
And
realize it. Go ahead.
if I can cut in for a bit, but yeah, like what really also is kind of annoying about Chris is that when he did all this stuff, that really he wasn't even thinking about the harm that he was doing to these people.
Yeah.
Just going.
Oh no, yeah, quite literally. And this kind of goes back to that selfish thing, right? Because he wasn't really thinking about his family or like the other people. Granted, he didn't really have a great relationship with his family to start out with, but
Wait,
he never
what?
really
Except that.
put them like took them into account and what like if he did actually die, which inevitably ended up happening, what that would actually do to his family. And unfortunately, that's the outcome that came to be.
Yeah.
He did have that relationship with his sister, though.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
But did he ever tell her where he was?
No, he really didn't.
I don't think so, no.
Yeah, I'm kind of torn on Chris because know later in his expeditions, I guess you could say, in
Hmm.
uh his expeditions in the whole thing, he was like, "Oh, I want to leave. I want to go back, I've realized my mistake." But
Yeah.
Yeah.
it was too late, and I feel like
Mhm.
that's the tragedy of his story is
Hmm.
that he realized it and he just didn't have the time nor the drive to push
Yep.
himself out of that area.
He kind of fell on his
Yeah.
own sword right there.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Um. Yeah, and going back to that like that selfishness topic, I feel like and at the end of the book, we did kind of get to see like this kind of wholesome thing with his mom and dad, where they flew out to, and like keep in mind, helicopters are not cheap.
In
Like they
fact,
had to buy
actually,
a helicopter.
in fact, the mom's plan was she wanted to just ride on the trail,
Hmm.
not even fly.
Yeah, yeah. That was the original plan, and they couldn't even do that. But they didn't let that stop them, right? Like that end kind of shows that his parents weren't like as, I guess, like blunt and as mean as Chris kind of made them out to be. Like they still definitely cared about him. Like obviously you have this like father mother son relationship going on, but I think it's a little bit more than that because they took the time and the money to fly by helicopter out to the bus that unfortunately he met his end. And I feel like it's, for me it was like just that, like for me it was like that nice little, like, I guess, cherry on top where his family, like, from what I understood, I don't think they were like angry at him necessarily for doing what he did, and like obviously, like, they definitely cared about him. Um, but I don't think that, like for me, it goes a little bit deeper than his parents just being like, oh dang, that sucks, I love you, son, like I wish you didn't do that. But I feel like his mom especially, I feel like him and his mom had a bit like a better relationship comparing to him and his dad, because like, and I didn't really fully grasp the story behind him and his dad, so I don't really know what's like going on there. I'm gonna be totally honest, but
Well, you as a father, are you going to what are you going to hold like resentment for? Like when your son dies, this kid that you've raised from when he was like 0 years old, you know,
yeah.
and you've raised him, you sent him to college,
Mhm.
it's like, of course he has feelings for him, but because he doesn't want to be vulnerable, he
Yeah.
he's holding it in, and that's why
Mhm.
we like see him be all kind of
Like
stoic,
tough guy. Yeah.
yeah, at like the bus. And as parents doing like I if I was a parent and my son died out in the wild, I would want to go where he died, see what he
Yeah.
was like, his last
Like,
place was, because I feel
mhm.
like the worst thing as a parent is seeing your own kid die before you.
Yeah, I know. I 100% agree. Like, and going back to what you said, like, you've raised this child that you've had a deep connection with from day one,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, they bit the dust before you did, which is never something that you want to have happen, and it's really unfortunate.
Hmm. Yeah, and with Chris and his father, I think I think I tend to agree with Chris's dad more than Chris, but Chris
Mhm.
can is his own man. He has his own feelings. He had his own
Yeah.
feelings, and he started loosening up
Mhm.
nearing the end of his life when he wanted to go home. When he
Yeah,
had the
I agree.
feeling of wanting to be around his loved ones,
Hmm.
and he wanted to be around those people that he loved and they loved him. And
Yeah.
it's just so sad that it ended up with him dying from starvation and
Hmm.
not getting enough food.
Yeah.
In
Which, by the
fact,
way, dying of starve. Sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
well, no, go ahead. I was just finishing up.
Okay, I was gonna say, like, dying of starvation, that's like the worst way to go out. Like, in my opinion, that is the most painful experience
Yeah.
to go out. And it did say in the book, like, when you do start to like actually die, the pain kind of goes away, which I guess kind of makes sense, but I don't really understand. Um, but like in those last like few moments, I think he kind of came to, like, he kind of had peace with himself. Like, unfortunately, it had to come to this, but there's nothing really I can do now. So I'm just gonna kind of stand by and let it happen, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah.
You know that one assignment we had where we were talking about how if like Chris's journey represents like modern day social like values or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I I like was like I kind of complicated the question a bit, but
Mm-hmm.
I still feel like with Chris, he wanted to be free. He wanted to be like he wanted these feelings of freedom. He wanted these feelings of like being out there. And
Mhm.
I feel like he realized it too late that where he was at the time was not where he wanted to be. You
Yeah.
know,
No. Yeah, I
he was
agree.
like, I want to be out in the wild. I want to be free. I want to be this, that, and the other thing. And I think this
Mhm.
is what truly is the true nature of human beings. It's like, I'm going to go live out by myself. I'm
Mhm.
going to go be by myself. Nearing the end, he was like, I miss these people. You
Mhm.
know, I
Yeah, he genuinely had like
he had the desire of wanting to go back.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. And going along with what you said, like not only are we naturally very selfish and social, but I feel like we are also very like adventurous and like we're very curious creatures and we want to find out everything about everything. And I guess Chris, in his circumstance, he bit off a little bit more than he could chew. I feel like, um, but yeah,
Curiosity killed the cat.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I I don't think he was curious. I think he was just, this is my cynical viewpoint on Chris. I
Mhm.
think that he was just wanting to not have to deal with his life, and he felt as if him going out in the wild and being by himself would change him and make him feel better about like himself. But
Mhm.
he cut off every single tie that he had with modern life, and that
Yeah.
does include relationships. He burnt down bridges that he could never rebuild. He burnt
Mhm.
down, you know, he didn't use with parents. You can always rebuild that bridge, and that was the only bridge he kind of, I felt like he kind of really had.
Yeah.
And he he tried to go back on it, but the terrain prevented him from doing so.
Mhm.
And that's the sad thing, is what happened to him. And
I'd,
it's
uh,
go ahead.
I'd like I'd like to add that with that bridge thing, um, a lot of people don't really understand how long it takes to actually build that connection, but
Mhm.
then you realize it after, and like it's also really easy to just break it.
Oh yeah.
Hmm.
No. Yeah. I 100% agree.
Yeah. Well, think about it. That bridge was built during his childhood, and I feel like he thought he broke it down, but the bridge was over a very small, like
Mhm.
river, and
Yeah.
he just had to cross it and
Yeah.
get back to his
Exactly.
parents. And we can see that. Hey, correlation time. It's just sad that in reality, what happened was the river was overflowed with water, and the bridge
Mhm.
wasn't there. And
Yeah.
you know, it, if it was shallow again, I feel like he would have rebuilt that bridge back to his parents. And
Mhm.
you know, I don't think his parents would have been like, "We hate you for not telling us what you did for the past 2 years."
Yeah.
I
I
think
know.
they'd bring loving arms with him. Be like, "I'm happy that you're back." You
Yeah,
know.
kind
Yeah.
of like the prodigal son story.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Yeah.
Where he
Yeah.
was just completely selfish and wanted his cut, and then when he came back, his dad had like no hate for him, and he was just happy that he was safe.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that's really like all it comes down to is like, yeah, you are like you may be upset at them for initially leaving, but when they come back, I feel like you're overcome with so much more joy than anger because you now have them back and they're safe and home and then once you do rebuild those bridges, then you can kind of like not aggressively or angrily, but like start to ask like casually, like, hey, why like what was your like why did you go out into the wild? Like what were you looking for something
Like
or like
reminisce on why, and
yeah.
what he did. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
You
Yeah,
know, as much as I think Chris is like, selfish and stuff like that, I think I genuinely do feel very sad that he had this change of heart, near the
Mhm.
end. But
Yeah.
he accepted what was going to happen, even though he changed, you know, and
Hmm.
he couldn't express to people how he changed. And it just
Yeah.
kind of we just see the aftermath of what happened, and it
hmm
it's just kind of it's a sad story, you know.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's
I f-
lucky that John, you know, got off that mountain. You know,
yeah.
he
hmm
thought he was gonna die. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
but because he was saved by some people, he had that feeling of wanting to be with others. You know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like now that he was out of death's clutches, he kind of like I feel like these experiences always and like always I've never seen an experience that hasn't done this, but like after a really truly terrible experience that like you really are on the verge of dying and like that mental like kind of prowess is like kind of messed up a little bit, you kind of get like a more like understanding of what a relationship actually is like because from like and this is going to be probably kind of cringy but like from TV shows whenever something really truly terrible happens I feel like their bridges get rebuilt or not necessarily rebuilt but built stronger and just because those their loved ones are so happy and glad to have them back safe and they are glad that they're not dead like you know.
He died.
Mhm.
Wait, what?
Oh, so you just finished.
Okay, I thought you
I.
Nick.
Uh,
My
yeah,
bad.
yeah, and to comment on that, it's like Chris would have been like that, you know. He would
hmm
have, and
Oh yeah, definitely.
you know, just his whole like him traveling, you know, everywhere, and him going up to Alaska to the place where he was gonna die, you
hmm
know. And people are like, "Oh, Chris wouldn't have wanted it any other way." I bet in like the midst of like the pain of starvation, he's probably wished he didn't go through there, you know.
Yeah.
And
Or maybe it shows us a different location or something. Yeah.
yeah, it's
Mm.
it's like we don't know how Chris would have felt. You know, we just want to like speculate. I think he was able to come to terms with his situation, but he definitely had to suffer before that, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely.
And I feel like that whenever, you know, his sister's like, "Oh, he loved being out there, you know, maybe if he had the dog things would have been different." You know,
hmm
but he always wanted to do that. You know, he always wanted
Oh
to go
yeah.
out there. I
hmm
think he did, and this is what I whenever I say that he changed, I feel like he wanted to go out there cuz he felt like that's what he wanted. That's what he like thought he needed, you know,
hmm
is to be
Yeah.
free, you know.
hmm No, yeah, definitely.
And
And like,
when he was out there, he did find freedom. But how much
yeah,
security did he have?
like zero.
Zero.
Yeah,
Exactly. He
literally
had a
zero.
22 out in the Alaskan bush, and he expected to live off of that. And
Yeah,
it's it's like
But hey, can we give him some props? So he did kill a moose with that old
that is
20.
true.
yeah, he
That
did.
is true. That is pretty impressive.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah.
hmm I also like, um, I feel like just the way Chris's personality is and who he is as a person, I feel like even though he did unfortunately meet the bitter end of this like story, I feel like if he was given a second chance, like a do-over, I feel like he definitely would have done it again,
Yeah.
but like actually took the thought process and tried to actually like process what he was doing and like the calamity of what he was actually doing. And like I feel like he definitely would have done it again and probably prepared a lot more. But because like throughout the story we see that like this is Chris's like raw personality. Like this isn't anybody telling him and like nobody told him to do this.
Oh.
Like nobody he grew up in such a rich family and community that like I feel like in some ways it almost pushed him to do this. Like
Yeah,
because
because
for me, like the way I am, I wouldn't really find happiness in living that way either. Like I definitely don't find happiness in money, even though some people like may think otherwise. Um, I definitely find happiness in experiences, which is probably where Chris had
Took
the
it.
idea of like, yeah,
He took
like
it to
hey,
the
maybe.
extreme.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm
exactly.
gonna add to that a little bit because
Mhm.
yeah, when people grow up like that and they don't get any experience with other things,
Mhm.
they're just so used to that, and so like whenever they actually go and do those other things that they want to do,
It's like
it never
exhilarating.
it never works.
Yeah.
Or yeah,
Oh,
it's exhilarating.
yeah.
But then when it doesn't work, it ends up being catastrophic for the
Yeah.
Mhm.
person,
Yeah.
mentally, physically, and
Yeah.
socially.
For
Oh no,
sure.
yeah, definitely. Because like they've never had that experience, and they want to experience it as much as physically possible, and they don't want it to stop. And then they realize that it's actually a bad thing a little bit too late, and then
Yeah, they realize that they went to too far of an extreme. You know,
hmm
Mhm.
like
yeah.
it, yeah. I think we should probably do some like wrapping up statements, like finishing our thoughts and
hmm
about like the book here soon. But it's, I feel like with Chris, he wanted, he wanted freedom, he wanted all
hmm
that, but he just didn't understand where that was. So he went
Yeah.
looking for it, and he realized it too late that the freedom was where he was at originally. His
hmm
happiness was there originally with
Was
his
with his
family,
family.
with his
Yeah.
friends, and
hmm
he might not have realized it at the time, but he might have, like, he wanted those social
hmm
interactions that he wasn't getting
Yeah.
whenever he went up into Alaska. And him going to Alaska where he had nobody to talk to for a
hmm
100 days, he finally realized that's what he missed,
Yep.
because he thought the issue was the people. He thought the issue was, the people talking to him, was
hmm
the people helping him. But
Yeah.
in the end, he
He realized that like that raw human connection is what he was actually missing, and he
mhm.
thought that that was you're right. That's what that I'm pretty sure he thought that was what was wrong, but unfortunately, it was right in front of him, and he just didn't seem to see that.
With his hubris, he just couldn't conceive that it might have been him, and I feel like he just
Yeah.
didn't. I said earlier in the episode that he was kind of lying to himself about where he wanted to go, where he wanted to be.
hmm
I feel like he was telling himself that these people, you kind of just got to get away from them. All right, you
Yeah.
gotta you gotta go live off in the wild. These people aren't helping you. These people aren't going to be
hmm
like anything. And you
hmm
just need to live out in the wilderness where you have as much freedom as possible.
Yeah.
And you know, like I've said, he realized it too late that he had issues, and
hmm
he needed to make them right. But
Yep.
that that bridge was destroyed when he
hmm
went in there.
Yep.
Not
hmm
when he went in there, but like because of the time that he was in there for.
Yeah.
And yeah, to add on to that a little bit is like all those people who called him like dumb for doing this,
hmm
like they don't understand how he
Yeah.
grew and how like this was literally completely new.
hmm
Like all those other people, they had probably been they had probably grown up with parents who did that stuff, like
hmm
at least
Yeah.
occasionally. But like with Chris, like their family, they were like either always busy or just wouldn't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. He definitely really, really wanted to do it, but he just didn't know what he was doing, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Jeremy, what's your final thoughts on the book? What would you rate it
Uh,
out of 10 and whatnot?
so well, it's definitely I definitely would probably read it again
hmm
because I actually quite liked it and how it showed some perspective on someone literally just trying to get a new life.
Yeah.
And also how the author can actually relate really well.
hmm
I don't know if you knew this, Arthur, but John Krakauer, dude, he climbed Mount Everest.
Yeah.
I do know. I'm pretty. Didn't he talk about it in the book?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he is also the person that climbed Devil's Thumb, which is crazy. Like me and Jeremy just figured this out today.
We just looked him up on Google and like found out all this crazy stuff that he'd done.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, what'd you rate out of 1 out of 10? What would you rate it? 10 being the highest.
Mm, either 7.5 or 8.
Mhm. How about you, Gavin? Final thoughts and rating.
I personally, I actually, I agree. I really liked the book. I'm only gonna rate it a 7 out of 10 because it did have some language, and I don't think that's like suitable for all audiences. And there were a couple like difficult sentences that I had to read like over and over to actually kind of grasp.
Mhm.
So it's definitely a higher like reading level, but like in terms of like the story and what actually happened, I personally really liked the book.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
you know, my rating and final thoughts is with Chris. I didn't like him in particular as a person, but
Hmm.
I can definitely realize him changing, and I definitely give that like that character a character arc. I give that character arc. Uh, you know, no, but that like his transition and him realizing definitely was a very good part of the book. So I give
Oh
that
yeah.
probably like 10 out of 10. But in general, him throughout the entire book, I didn't like him. I give him a 4 out of 10. But the book in general, I'd probably give it 5.5 out of 10. But I would
Mhm.
read it again because I
Yeah.
really like some aspects of the book. It's just that because I'm so, like, kind of cynical about it. I don't like reading about how Chris was like basically, and he wasn't being like a bum on society. He was kind of just doing his own thing, and I feel like
Yeah.
that's fine. But he was definitely a burden mentally and like emotionally on his loved ones, and that's
Yeah.
what
No, definitely.
I can't really see past. I guess
Hmm.
maybe I'm the fool, but
Yeah. No.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with
I
with Christmas coming up, I love my family, and I love to see them, and it'd be
Mhm.
painful to never see them again. You know.
Yeah. Hmm.
definitely.
Yeah.
So you're about to
Yeah,
say something.
yeah. I also like how he kind of changed at the end, and I'm gonna actually read this little thing from the book, page 199, and it says, "I have had a happy life. Thank the Lord. Goodbye, and may God bless all." I think that actually adds on to him changing his perspective on life after he'd experienced this.
Hmm. Yeah. It kind of goes to show like how he actually changed because at the beginning of the book, he was not like that at all, like whatsoever.
Yeah, he was
But
more pompous and cocky about it.
yeah. Mhm.
Really,
No, definitely.
he was not ready for what Alaska had prepared for him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's just a sad thing because if he maybe like brought like a 30-06 rifle or something.
Yeah. Or
You
like a
know.
revolver, like a big revolver.
Yeah, maybe if he bought had like a car 98 or something.
Yeah, he also
Like a
was
500
smart about
Magnum.
that because usually a 30-06 or any bigger rifle really is gonna be heavier,
Yeah.
That's
especially with
true. It does add weight.
materials it's used.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, you just kind of sad that because he killed a moose with a 22. I'm still
Yeah.
surprised about that.
That's impressive.
It is impressive.
Bro probably shot through his eyeball.
Oh yeah, like bullseye, literally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one in a lifetime shot probably. Yeah, literally.
Or maybe we just don't know anything about guns, but
Yeah, that's very possible.
uh, but it is still surprising.
Like nonetheless, yeah.
I would recommend the book for any of the actual people who got this far in the podcast. I don't know why you're here, but
I mean, we're just a bunch of high schoolers talking about a book we just read with a class,
yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah.
Definitely, definitely. Um, I'd like to thank you guys for joining me here on this episode of The Boys Did a Podcast. Episode 1.
Oh
There's
yeah.
not going to be an episode 2. We already got canceled on Fox.
Yep.
Yeah.
Fox 13 movies.
All right. Well, this is Arthur, Gavin, and Jeremy. And we're signing off, right?
Yep.
All right. Bye bye.